Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, sir. How are you, man?
Yeah, fine. Thank you.
Shall we start?
Yeah, sure.
So, can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, so basically, I'm a web developer with a good knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And these are the building blocks that I use to create a simple and effective websites. And basically, my aim is to make sure that the page that look nice and easy to use. And I am enjoy working with others and solving problems and learning new things to improve my skills. And I'm very excited about growing in the tech field and contributing with the exciting web projects. So yeah.
So, can you please explain your recent project? Any recent project you have worked on?
Okay. So basically, I developed a real-time code editor, which is inspired by the tools like Google Docs. But this is for coding, and it lets people see and edit the same piece of code at the same time, which helps them together better. And basically, I use simple web tools like JavaScript, HTML, and CSS to build it. And I added a special feature that let the user talk and see changes instantly. And this project helped me to learn about how to make a website where people can work together in a real time and making my team project smoother and more fun. So yeah, basically this is my project.
So, it was your personal project or team
Yeah,
project?
it was my personal project.
So, have you used development in your project?
Yeah, sure. I use div element. So basically, the
Okay.
div element in HTML is essentially a type of container which is used to group together other element and structure of a web page. So basically, it plays a key role in organizing contents semantically and making the layout easier to understand and manageable. So basically, the div element can be styled in various ways through CSS and it allows the creation of visually appeal design and layout. So yeah, this is all I know about the div element initially.
Okay. So, what's the role of the development?
Basically the role of the development is it's commonly used to section of a different part of a page, such as header, footer, and sidebar, providing a clear vision of a content. And the development facilitate dynamic interaction with JavaScript, and it enable developer to manipulate page elements and for interactive user experience. So these
Okay.
are the some roles of development.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are empty elements?
Okay, so basically empty elements in HTML are those elements that does not contain any content, which is called empty. So basically that are closed within the same tag, and it does not like the most of the HTML element that have a opening and closing tab to wrap content. Basically, empty element consists of a single tag that sometimes carries attribute but does not wrap or enclose content between an opening and closing tag. So basically, unlike the other element which have the closing and tag, but empty element does not have the closing tag to wrap content. So basically, let's say the example empty tag example, which include br tag for line break and image tag for images and HR tag for horizontal rules, and we can use the input tag for input field. So these are the some examples of empty tag.
Okay, so, one question. So, what will happen if two elements have same IDs?
Basically, if two elements in the same HTML document have the same ID, it will result in invalid HTML because the ID is meant to be unique within the page. So technically, the browser will render the page, but this duplication can cause issues, especially with the CSS and JavaScript. So when we talk about the issues in CSS, if we style an element using the ID selector, the style will apply only the first element with that ID. So browser typically ignore the other element with the same ID when applying the CSS style. So and when we talk about the in JavaScript, so when we select an element by its ID, so the method like the get element by ID method will return only the first element within the specific ID. So this make it difficult to interact with the other with the element that have same ID beyond the first one. So basically, these are the issue when we two element have the same ID.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is internal style sheet in CSS and like when to use it in real applications? Can you
Okay.
please tell
So
me?
okay. So basically, the internal style sheet is a method of embedding CSS directly within the HTML document using the style tag. Okay, so typically it is placed in the header section of the HTML, and this approach allows us to apply the style to element on a single page. So we do not need the other page to include the CSS when we trying to include a CSS. So basically, it make particularly useful for the page that have a unique styling requirement and that differ from the rest of the web page or application. So these are the this is the internal style sheet of CSS where we do not need the other page to applying the CSS basically. So in a real application, uh, basically in real application, the internal style sheet is used when we are developing or testing something. So
Okay.
it means that during the development phase or testing phase, using the internal style sheet can be quicker or more convenient than linking to the external style sheet. So this is, I think, the real world application of internal style sheet. Or when we can also use it in a when we use there is a small projects or pages, so we can also use the internal style sheet for that also.
Okay. So how do you include CSS in a web page or HTML?
Okay, so CSS can be included in a web page or HTML in a three ways. So first one is inline, and the second one is internal, and the third one is external. So basically, the inline CSS is I just told you about it, which is also called the internal CSS. It added directly to the HTML element by using the style attribute, and the second one is internal. Basically, it is placed within the header section of the HTML page using the style tag. And the third one is external. So it involves linking a separate CSS file to the HTML using the link tag within the header section. So external CSS is preferred for maintaining the consistency and reusability across the multiple page. So basically, it is common and preferred over other two CSS. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know about child selectors in CSS?
Okay, child
And if
selector.
yes, so can you please explain?
Yeah, I can explain it. Basically, the child selector in CSS target specific child element within the parents element. Okay, so when we define the child selector by using, we can define the child selector by using the greater than symbol between the parents and the child selector. So this selector selects only the direct children of the parent, and it does not select any descendants that are further nested. Okay, so let's say when we take an example, so if we have a div element with a p element inside the div, and by using the div greater than p, which is basically the symbol of a child selector, so it will target only the p element that are direct children of the div, and it will ignoring the other p element which is nested within the other element of the div. So basically, this allow for more precise styling of element in a web page. So this is the child selector in a CSS.
So can you please explain the concept of box model in CSS?
Box model in CSS. Okay, so basically the CSS box model is a fundamental concept that describes how element are structured and lay out on a particular web page. So basically, it represent each element as a rectangular box, and it consists of four areas. And the first one is content, and second one is padding, and third one is border and margin. So basically, the content is the area where the text and images appear. And when we talk about the padding, basically it is the space between the content and the border, which is used to create an extra space within the box. And the border enclose the content and padding. So finally, the margin is the outmost layer. Basically, it can create a space between the box and the adjacent layer. So these are the four element of a rectangular box, four areas basically. And understanding the box model is crucial for controlling layouts and overall appearance of a web page. So this is the concept of a box model in CSS.
Okay.
So yeah.
So what's the role of float property in CSS?
Okay, so basically the float property in CSS is used to place an element to the left or the right side of its container. So basically it allowing other element just like text or inline element to wrap around it. So it is commonly used in a layout to align image within the text block, or we can also use the float property to create sidebars. And when an element is floated, so it is taken out of the normal flow of the document and the content that flows it. So basically, that will flow around it and other available space. So basically, the float property can have the value of left, right, or none. And with the none, it will be the default value. The null value is the default value, and it means that the element will not float and will be displayed in the normal flow of the document. So this is the float property of the CSS.
So moving to the next question. So what is CSS grid and layout in CSS? I mean, what is CSS grid layout actually?
Okay, okay. So basically, the CSS grid layout is a way to arrange element on a web page in a grid-like structure. So basically, suppose we are dividing a page into rows and columns, just like a table. So, but with the more flexibility. Okay, so we can actually decide how many rows and columns we want and their sizes. We can also decide and where to place the item within the grid. So this make it easier to create the complex layout for a web page, and it ensures that the everything align nicely and adapt to different screen size. So it's like playing with the building blocks actually. So but for the web page, and it gives us control over the layout in a very structured way. So this is the CSS grid layout. Uh, so yeah, this is the CSS layout.
Okay, okay. Gotcha. So as you said, like you also have good experience in JavaScript, right?
Yeah.
And you work with JavaScript. So can you please tell me what is loop and what are the types of loops in JavaScript?
Okay, so basically, in a simple terms, a loop in a JavaScript is a way to do a repetitive task without writing the same code over and over again. So it is just like a smart robot that can repeat a set of instruction until we tell it to stop. So if we did not tell it, so it will repeat it again and again. So basically, these are there are the different types of loops in JavaScript. First one is for loop. So basically, it tells the robot that exactly how many times to do other specific task. And the second one is while loop. So it basically tells the robot to keep doing the task as long as the certain condition is true. So this is the while loop, and third one we can say is the do while loop. So it is basically the similar the while loop, and but the robot in do while loop will do the task at least once, and even if the condition is not true from the beginning. And the fourth one is for in loop. It is used to loop through the properties of an object. And the fifth one is for of loop, and it let the robot to go through item in a collection like a list or the number or the letter. So yeah, these are the five loops, types of loops in JS. And yeah, I know
So which
about.
one is your favorite?
Basically, my favorite is for loop. It tells the robot that exactly how many times to specific task is to be done. So yeah, for loop.
So moving to the next question, can you please tell me what is hoisting in JavaScript?
Hoisting in JavaScript. Okay, so basically hoisting in JavaScript is a behavior where the variable and the function declaration are moved to the top of their containing scope during the completion phase before the code actually start. So this is the hoisting, and hoisting in JavaScript is just like the setting up all our tools on a workbench before starting a project. So when we write the JavaScript code, we might declare the variables or the functions in a different place, but behind the scene, JavaScript moves all the declaration of the top of their respective scope before running our code. So this means that we can use the functions and the variable before we have written the code that create them. Okay, so and the JavaScript won't complain about it. So generally on the declaration are move up, not the actual assignment. So this is the hoisting in JavaScript.
Okay, so have you used a type of operator in JavaScript before?
Yeah, I use the type of
So can
operator
you, yeah,
basically.
so,
Yeah.
okay, so can you explain like what's the
Okay.
use of that operator?
Okay. So basically, the type of operator in JavaScript is like a label marker of our data, and basically it tells us what type of data something is, such as whether it is a number or is it a string of a text and object, is it an object or not, and another kind of data. So this is really useful because in JavaScript we can do different things depending on what type of data we are dealing with. So let's take an example. If we would not want to try adding two letters of alphabet together as if they were number, right? So the type of operator help us prevent mistakes like that by letting us check what we are working with. So basically, this is the most use of the type of operator in JavaScript. So this is the basically use of JavaScript.
So what is short circuit evaluation in JavaScript?
Okay, so basically the short circuit evaluation in JavaScript is a way of getting a result quickly when dealing with and or operator. So for and operator, if the first value is false, the JavaScript won't check the second value because it knows that whole statement can't be true. And for or operator, if the value is true, it stop right there, and because with or only one variable makes the whole statement true. So this help us speed up the code by not checking unnecessary thing, and it saves us time. So basically this is the short circuit evaluation in JavaScript.
So have you used map and each method, array method in JavaScript?
Yeah, I used
So can you
map.
tell me the differences between them?
Okay, okay. So basically, map and for each are both method we can use on arrays in JavaScript, but they do different things. Basically, map goes through an array and it does something to each item and makes a new array with this result. And it's like transforming the array into something else. And when we talk about the for each, it basically goes through each item in an array, but it does not create a new array, and it does something with each item like printing them out. So basically map map array is utilized when we want a new array after changing each item, and basically for each method is for it is utilized for when we just want to do something with each item and don't we do not need a new array. So basically these are the main difference between the map and for each method of an array.
So what is the function expressions in JavaScript?
Okay, so a function expression in JavaScript is a way to define a function by assigning it to the variable. So it does not like the function declaration, which is hoisted and can be called before it appear in the code. So basically, the function expression is not hoisted. So this means we can only use it after we define it. When we talk about in a simple term, so it's like creating a recipe. So here recipe is the functions and putting in a box. So here box is the variable. So whenever we need to use that recipe, we take it out of the box and using the variables name. So basically this allows for more flexible functions usage and can be particularly useful in cases where the functions are use values such as callbacks or event handlers or etc. So these are the functions expression in JavaScript.
Okay, so can you tell me the difference between query selector and query selector all methods?
Okay, so basically the query selector and query selector all are both methods in JavaScript, which is used to select the element from the HTML document. Okay, but they work differently. So basically the query selector return the first element that matches specific CSS selector. So if we have a multiple elements with the same class or the tag, the query selector will only give us the first one, what they find, so it gives us the first one only. So on other hand, when we talk about the query selector all, basically it return all the elements that match the specific CSS selector and giving us the list of the matching element. So this is useful when we want to apply changes or action to all the element with a certain class or a tag. So it not just the first one. So basically these are the difference between the query selector and query selector.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So can you please define constructor functions?
Okay, so basically the constructor function in JavaScript are special function which is used to create the new objects. Basically they act like the blueprints for the objects, and when we call the constructor function, so with the new keyword, so it create a new instance of an object and setting up its properties and method. For example, if we have the constructor function for a car, each time we use the new car, it creates a new car object with the same properties and behavior. So basically, when it's defining the car function, so this is the constructor functions.
Okay, thank you.